Hello everyone, welcome to this video. Today we're going to explore the new Scrapbook.com acetate sheets. These new acetate sheets are an exclusive product to Scrapbook.com. They are beautifully clear. They're 5 by 6 inches and come in this 20 pack. Acetate's always a crafter's friend, right? I, for one, use them often with cards and tags. They're also quite often found in my mini albums as clear pages. Yes, super fun way to add to a mini album. A couple things about these new acetate sheets. Of course, they'll cut very easily with your scissors. They also will cut just fine through your paper trimmer. They can be run through a die cutting machine. Just make sure that you're using a high-tack mat and a deep cut blade. But not only that, the acetate sheets are heat resistant, right? And I have even run them through my laser printer and my Minc machine. So today's video is a tutorial doing just those things, using the Minc foil machine and a laser printer and a couple other things. I can't wait to show you how beautifully these foil with the Minc foil machine. I'm going to demonstrate 3 great ways to foil on the acetate, which in turn you can then find endless ways to use them, to use these sheets rather, throughout your crafting. So one way I have here is I have used the laser printer and I printed this out and then foiled it, and it just did a beautiful job. Secondly, using the Minc Toner Ink and a rubber stamp, I was just playing around and created this image on one of the acetate sheets, and we'll talk about this. Then third, I'm going to show you how I stenciled with the acetate with Minc texture paste. Now, this isn't a stencil design, but it is the texture paste, and it also beautifully foils on the acetate. Are you ready? Well, let's get started. Okay, first, let's talk about printing on the acetate for the purpose of foiling. You can see here that I printed first on the paper, and then I taped the acetate with Minc tape to the paper and printed a second time. And now I have a laser printed word on the acetate sheet. Okay, for the purpose of this technique, I have grabbed a couple of items that we're going to need to actually be able to foil the printed acetate. Of course, I have my acetate sheet, which I have trimmed down to about 3 inches, and now it's about a 3 by 5, which is just a great tag size. I have a carrier sheet that I've cut down to about 6 by 6. This is part of the Minc collection. And I'm going to place the printed acetate inside and layer the foil right on top and run it through the machine at heat setting 3. All right, it takes just a moment for it to run through the machine, but when it is all done, the reveal just gets you every time. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? That is the laser printed on the acetate sheet, and it creates just a beautiful tag. Okay, for this technique with the toner ink, I've already poured some of the Minc Toner Ink on the silicone mat. I like to let it set up for just a few minutes, which is what I've done here. It just needs to kind of thicken up for my liking. Another tip to keep in mind as well is the rubber stamp that I've used. It's a little bit more of a solid surface. Sometimes it can be a little more difficult to do detailed images. So for today's example, I've used this phrase stamp. I'm just going to roll over the stamp with the brayer and the ink till I am happy with the coverage that I have. I don't want it too inky. And just like all stamps, you know, you're not getting this completely perfect impression. I have vellum underneath this tag here just to help you see what's taking place. So I've got that stamped on there. You can see how that looks once it's stamped, and I'm going to give this now a few minutes, setting it on top of the Minc machine to let it dry. It has now dried. I'm going to pop it right back here inside the carrier folder. Grab this piece of foil, cover it up, and run it back through the machine just like we've done so far. Here we go. Okay, while this is running through the machine, I clean my stamp just with a wet wipe, and I suggest you do the same thing. And ta-da! That is so cool. Like I said, use a little bit wider stamp like we did here on this one, and you'll have beautiful results every time. All right, you ready for the next technique? All right, I'm all set up for the last technique, and it's going to require the following supplies. Again, we're going to need to utilize the Scrapbook.com Silicone Mat. I have grabbed a stencil. This is a 6x8 dotted stencil, exclusive to Scrapbook.com. The Heidi Swapp Minc texture paste. It's another foiling medium. I'll show you how to use that. A palette knife for that. And then I grabbed some Minc tape because as I am going to be applying the texture paste through the stencil onto the acetate, I realized that, the stencil, or rather the acetate, is just a little slick. So I just want to hold everything in place while I am applying the clear texture paste through the stencil. So I'm going to do that here. And you just want to get a nice, smooth, level application through the stencil. Okay, and what I've done today is I already have this applied to another piece of acetate because you truly do want to allow this texture paste to dry completely. So carefully lift this off of the acetate. You can see, there's a nice texture to this definitely, which is one of the things I absolutely love about this technique. Okay, so now let's repeat this process. I have my carrier envelope, the acetate, and a piece of foil popped right on top, and I'm going to run it through the machine. This is one of my most favorite techniques and works beautifully every time and creates just great texture with the foil and the texture paste, hence the texture paste, right? But really, it really is a very, very lovely way to use the acetate sheets and the Minc foil machine and foil. So I hope you will give these techniques a try. Follow each of these techniques or do them all. Tell me what your favorite is. Let me know how you think you'll use these new acetate sheets from Scrapbook.com, and I will see you in the next video.